dreamers everywhere. Welcome to the Dueling Disney podcast. I am one of your hosts, Andee Zomerman.
And I am the other one of your hosts, Andee. How you doing?
So, I'm okay. I am getting over germy 7th graders. Like I told you, their germs got into my germs somehow. And I actually, you know what? I told you I was making tea.
Yeah.
But it's actually not tea. It's something different. I call it tea because
lied.
it's too hard to explain. No, it's too
What
hard
is
to
it?
explain. But when I'm not feeling good and I have a sore throat and stuff, I took a tip from when my kids were in theater. And it's a hot drink, and it's made with 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, a tablespoon of honey, hot water, and cinnamon.
Oh, yeah. No, when I was doing a lot of theater, that was sort of, we called it throat coat, even though there's like a a brand throat coat, but that's what we called it. Like, especially if your voice was in bad shape, because I am a good singer in a character, if that makes sense. Like, I can sing my behind off if I'm playing a character. If it's just good old Al, I don't know about that.
That's not true. That's not true. But it helps. I mean, it helps. The girls used to drink it, and now when I have a sore throat, and I don't know. I don't know if it really works or not, but it feels good on my throat.
I feel like it works. And one of the things I used to do is drop a lozenge in it and just have that lozenge melt, and some of that medication would, especially if you're having a sore throat.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I don't like some lozenges are real medicine-y, and I don't like that medicine-y. Yeah.
I woke up
in the Throat Coat podcast.
Oh, no, it's not really Disney. Okay, sorry. I'll get off of that. Okay, so how was your Disney week? What happened?
It's good. Okay. So you know that I'm, as you are, planning to go to D23 this summer.
Yes, I do know that.
And I'm doing all my sort of travel plans, and I've got WonderCon next month in Anaheim. I've got Comic-Con in July, just 3 weeks before WonderCon, or just 3 weeks before D23. And then I've got D23 in Anaheim in August. And so I put way more thought into what I'm going to wear at conventions than I do to what I wear to work on a day-to-day basis. So Emma really made fun of me for not having enough Disney sweatshirts. So I've started to gather a collection of Disney sweatshirts. I'm wearing one right now that I love.
I like it. I like that one too.
But I also really like baseball caps. And I have some really cool like comic book Batman, Superman baseball caps that I love. And I was just saying, okay, I need more Disney baseball caps. And here's the thing. Disney, I love Disney merchandise. They're not really doing good on the baseball cap front.
Oh my God, that's so funny that you said that, because when we were there, all my mom wanted to do was buy my dad a baseball cap, and we couldn't find one.
They're not. They just don't have good baseball caps. I don't know what it is.
They're into the trucker type,
right? And I hate
right now.
Type caps.
And my mom did not want my dad to have one of those, and so she was just trying to find a good baseball cap for him to wear, and was not successful in that venture.
Yeah. So I bought a Disney Pixar cap on Shop Disney. And I was like, oh, I like the way it looked online, and I got it. And I hate it.
Oh,
it's just not, and it looks okay, but it's just not a pleasant cap to wear.
Okay, that's fair.
So my Disney week is me begging Disney to do better at baseball. And part of it is Disney does all their own merchandise and apparel. And I think that there's companies who do this kind of stuff really good that Disney probably just needs to like set up a license with, because they just don't do it. They just haven't got good baseball caps. Sorry.
I think Ed has some old ones from back in the day that are pretty cool.
Like, they used to have good.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I also think that, and this is just true as I get older, that at 54, nobody markets to me anymore.
Well, probably true. Nor my dad at 79.
Hoodies and stuff like that, right? Yeah. Like, I those stuff I find pretty easily. But especially like stuff like, I love stuff like this that's like vintagey.
I do too.
I would dig a vintage baseball cap. And you know me, like my whole thing with like t-shirts and hoodies is I don't want one that's like Mickey on a surfboard. I want something that somebody's going to walk by and go, wait a minute, is that? Because like for this one, like you have to go, oh yeah, remember they had the show Wonderful World of Color, even though most people are going to think of this as the California Adventure show. But
oh my God, isn't that
on the
funny?
back, it's got like a TV and Walt and all kinds of stuff.
I did not even think of the California Adventure Show. I mean, I 100% thought of TV, but you're right. I didn't. Yeah, you're right. People would think that.
What
Oh,
about you?
wow.
What's your Disney week?
All these things showing our age. Well, I got a really cool souvenir from a student who went to Disneyland, and
I saw this on Instagram. It's awesome.
Did put it on Instagram, and I think the reason I loved it so much, not only because it was genuine and handmade and all of that stuff, but I'm kind of embarrassed that I didn't think of this idea first. So, when we went plenty of times to Disney. We took the girls out of school, went to Disney, and came back and brought teacher gifts that were like a mug or something like that. And so when I had students come back after leaving school, and they went to Disneyland and came back, and this lovely student, Emma, gave me, I said, what was your favorite thing, while you were there? And she said, the Animation Academy drawing. I go, oh my gosh, my girls love that too. Isn't it so funny? You think you're going to like the rides or something like that, but it turns out Animation Academy. She goes, yeah, I just wanted to spend all my time there. She goes, and I have this for you. And she gave me this one that she made of Minnie Mouse, and she signed it. And I said, you know what? That is the best.
That's the
best souvenir.
Top tier souvenir. If somebody brought me that, I would be crying in my office.
I loved it. I just loved it. And obviously I posted it on Instagram. I loved it so much, but I just thought it was really, really clever.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how many of those drawings we came home with.
Right. And right now, Emma and Monica are like, where's our drawings on Instagram?
Yeah, exactly. But I just thought it was very sweet, and I wanted to share it because I think, a lot of our listeners go to Disney, and if they have young kids or whatever and are looking for that souvenir that's not a pencil or a Disney lollipop or a mug.
And is free.
I loved it. I'll love it.
I mean, because it's meaningful, right? It's literally not, because I would think, again, I'm not a teacher and don't hang around with little children, but I would think most of the time it's a parent going, you need to get your teacher a gift, or the kid isn't even aware, and parents are like, okay, we're going to get pencils and we're going to blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
Here, give this to your kid. But this is like, I was thinking of you, and here you go, right?
I will tell you, so far, and I'm not trying to gender stereotype, but it's going to sound like a gender stereotype. First of all, I expect no souvenir. I don't even expect that. So I want to get that off the table. This is not an expectation. But every time I've gotten a gift or a souvenir from a boy, most of the time, first of all, they can't make direct eye contact with me. And then they just kind of give it to me. And if I open it, I'm like, oh, thank you for the gift card. They'll be like, oh, that was in that. Like, no idea. Yeah. But the girls have always been like super thoughtful in their, I knew you would like this because blah, 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 blah. I just think it's hilarious. And like I said, I'm not trying to gender stereotype.
Little boys aren't supposed to have any emotion. So that's it's called being a man.
I was going to say, do they ever come? I mean, come on.
I'm still waiting. Maybe one day.
No, there are a lot of sweetheart boys out there too. I just think it's cute, and I'm sure that's just my class. That's not all boys everywhere, all girls everywhere.
For folks who are college students, if you are thinking of getting an AVC gift, the drawing is fine, but clothing, gift card, high-end collectible merchandise. That's.
I'm sure there's a lot of college students listening to this right now.
I really, for that assistant vice chancellor, I really think I need to bring him a gift.
Come on, did you even know who your assistant vice chancellor was growing up?
I didn't know an assistant vice chancellor was a thing. I literally had no idea. I was like, I don't know, there's people who work here. I got to get to class. Like, leave me alone.
That is so
we went
funny.
to school together. Did we ever talk about our
never
university staff?
Ever. No, that is true. Well, I'm excited to talk about our subject this week. And I know it's a subject that you know way more than I do. And you've been asking.
I mean, if we start pulling that thread.
Okay, well, this one for sure. Why don't I let you introduce the topic, actually, because you are way more knowledgeable about it than I am.
Well, here's the thing. When D23 or when Disney Plus first came out, we had a whole podcast about my love of the vintage Disney programs the old school ones that what I will call from the clamshell era, that we
Yeah.
would go to, and this was pre-Blockbuster. We'd go to like the local video store for a weekend, and my mom was not a fan of renting adult movies for kids, not adult films, but like rated R movies. And so we were heavy Disney clamshell video VHS consumers. And so these there's a period of movies in the Disney history that just hold a special place in our hearts, I think. Particularly for those of us, who are Gen X and who grew up with the renting VHS copies and all that kind of thing. And particularly when we had our first conversation about Disney Plus, I was just saying how some of those key movies that I love weren't on there. And so for this week, we both sort of went into Disney Plus and did a deep dive into some of those vintage movies that meant a lot to us. And we just sort of want to talk about those movies. And these are, you won't find, I think we compared notes, you don't find any of the animated movies, because animated movies are in such high rotation that it's hard to think of an animated movie that people don't have some level of familiarity with. But these are sort of those movies that we just happened upon on a random Saturday when, I don't know about your family, but my mom was like, hey, here's Greyfriars Bobby. Because it was available.
That is the funniest thing that you mentioned that one. Because I'm like, what the heck? And you knew them all. You knew them all way before I did, but we were way more in animation, I think.
Well, we did those too. But
but we did it a lot.
We were also a movie family. So it was not uncommon for us to rent like 4 movies and watch them all.
Yeah, that's true. We just other than so when we're talking about these movies, we're not talking about like Mary Poppins or Bedknobs and Broomsticks or anything like that. At least I wasn't. I was going deep. So a lot of these I haven't even heard of, and it's so funny because I have a co-teacher who has a son who watches all the old ones. He doesn't like the new movies. And so I said, well, I know all of the old ones too, like Pollyanna and Apple Dumpling Gang and Candle Shoe and all of these. And he goes, oh no, you don't know all of them. And I was like, oh, come on. You are challenging me. And he's like, the boy.
Now, let me just warn you, when you get into these things, they don't tend to end well for you.
Never, ever, 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 ever. So he's like, I bet you've never watched The Boy Who Talked to Badgers. And I was like, I just stopped me. And I was like, no, but now I have. And wow, are there a lot of movies to be seen that I have not seen.
And that's one of the things that I think is a great thing about Disney Plus, is that people really underlook. Like, that library is deep. It is just, there's so many of these movies on there. And I've said before, as much as I love Disney Plus, their organization is bad for finding these things. Like, there's movies there that you have to search for. There's not like a place to go and say, here are all the movies we have. You have to search for, at least 3 of the movies on my list. When I was just scrolling through, I had to remember, oh, it's called this, to find it. And I'm going to call this the Follow Me Boys Memorial List, because, and this is something new I discovered. There too.
What?
I always complain that Follow Me Boys is one of those movies I love. It's not a movie on my list because it's not on Disney Plus, and that's sort of where we started. But you know where you can find Follow Me Boys?
No.
It's on Apple. So it has been digitized. I could buy it or rent it on Apple TV.
What is this buying or renting on Apple, though? Yeah, why can't they get that? Because I have some favorites, too, that weren't there.
I don't understand. And I never thought to search, because when Disney Plus came out, it was one of the first movies I searched for. It wasn't there.
Yeah.
And then when I was looking at this, I was like, oh, maybe it's been put up since then. And I searched on Disney Plus, it wasn't there. And then something said, well, just search through Apple TV, because that maybe it's on Netflix, or it'll sort of combine all the things. And it was on Apple TV. You can rent it for $3.99 or buy it for $17.99.
I'm too cheap.
I know.
I'm too cheap.
Like, as much as I complained, did I buy it for $17.99? No.
Or even rent it? Did I rent it? So, what else is on your Follow Me Boys list, though? Before we go into Disney Plus, Just so we're
Let me
not
see.
wasting our
I
time.
also made a note of this one is not going to be on my list. It's not unavailable. It is available, but it's my weird now list,
Okay.
which is the movies that I did like a lot, but now with some years I go, yeesh.
Yeah.
It's sort of like Davy Crockett
Oh yeah. But that's
is.
not on Disney Plus.
It's on Disney Plus, but it's not on my list because
Oh.
I started like I was listening to the lyrics of Davy Crockett, and some of it is like killed all them Indians and da da da. And I'm like, ooh, that's
Wait,
not.
while you are saying that, I did want to, and I'll post this on Instagram too, because one of the things I found as I was looking at some of those that I appreciate is when you're looking at the title screen of the movie where you can watch the trailer or you can play it, it's got that content advisory little block on there. One of the things that said, I'm going to read it. These stereotypes were wrong then and are wrong now.
I like that. I like the way they wrote that statement.
Mm-hmm. Rather than remove this content, we want to acknowledge its harmful impact. Learn from it, and spark conversation to create a more inclusive movie future together. But one of the things that I really appreciate said is these stereotypes were wrong then and they're wrong now. So it's not like
it's not like it was a different time. It's like no. People knew that, right?
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like when we talked about Song of the South, and everybody's like, "Well, nobody complained then," and I'm like, "No, the NAACP was complaining pretty heavily at the time."
Yeah, exactly.
So let me, and trigger warning for folks, but I think it's important to give context. Let me quote the lyrics. And I discovered this. I was walking the dog, and I have like a Disney mix that I walk with. And here's just 2 lines from the Ballad of Davy Crockett, the theme song. Quote, fought single-handed through the Injun War till the creeks was whipped and peace was in store. So yeah, that's not ideal. So nope. Dave, and I used to love Davy Crockett. I thought it was a really good show, and I enjoyed it when I was a kid. And I can't. And now I'm like, no, thank you.
Yeah,
that did not make the list.
Okay, but I do have. I wanted to say on your Follow Me Boys list, making sure the movies that I really want to see, but I cannot get on Disney Plus. Mm-hmm. I don't know why they don't have the North Avenue Irregulars on there. Yes. Karen Valentine, Cloris Leachman. Mm-hmm. I just remember being in the theaters, and I honestly remember my mom cracking up. Like, I don't remember her crying, laughing through a movie like that one. And I was little, and I just remember, I mean, so much went over my head.
Well, and yeah, right. And I don't know about your list, but my list, I realize, is stuff we watched, sort of on VHS. But a couple of them are stuff we were taken to the theater to see in the 70s, right?
And
like, I'm like, yeah, right? Like, oh, yeah, we saw that. And I didn't even remember it until I was like looking at it and go, oh, wait a minute. Didn't my mom take us to see that?
That I remember that vividly, so I would really like to watch that again. Obviously not for $3.99, but and the other one that I really don't want to rent but want to know is that when I was young, I'm talking like 5 or younger, my cousins took me to a movie, and I remember the movie, and I remember this one scene in a movie that I'm dying to find, and I haven't been able to find. I think the movie was one something. It was it has Indian, One Little Indian.
Okay.
And it's James Gardner, and I am almost positive that's the one, but I haven't rented it for $3.99 to see if it was the one. So I got that.
Well, and because I don't know, that's one of the things that I struggle with is like I don't want to ruin childhood memories, and sometimes I've done that where I'm like, oh my gosh, like this movie I loved when I was like a kid, and then you watch it now and it's not so great. The other one that's not on there is One of Our Dinosaurs is missing.
I don't even know that one.
Oh my god, nobody knows this movie, but it was a Disney movie. I want to say late 70s, and it was about like some kind of caper in a natural history museum where they stole the skeleton of a dinosaur. And the reason I hadn't even thought of it, and the reason I remembered it was I was watching some documentary about the making of Star Wars, the first one, which I will always call Star Wars. And they said, oh yeah, this skeleton that they used to make this monster on Tatooine was originally used in the Disney movie One of Our Dinosaurs is Missing. And literally I had not thought of the phrase one of our dinosaurs is missing until I saw that, since I had seen that movie in the 70s. And now I'm like, yes, I remember that movie. It is not on Disney Plus.
Okay, I just remembered another one that is not on Disney Plus. When you were talking about one movie using another thing, the horse in the gray flannel suit, I'm almost positive that was Disney. The reason I know the horse,
Disney.
Okay, I gotta look it up. Sorry, guys, I don't know. But the horse in the gray flannel suit, horse in the gray, there it is. The reason it is Walt Disney. It is Walt Disney's The Horse in the Gray Flannel Suit.
It is Disney. Okay.
It is not on Disney Plus. And the reason I know about this movie from 1968, before I was born, is because the horse in the gray flannel suit was my mom's cousin's horse.
Wow.
So I've ridden, I've like literally, seen that horse in the gray flannel suit because it was their horse.
Now, did it have the suit on, or was it more of a winter linen?
Never saw it with the suit on. I will tell you that is the same cousin who grew up in Fullerton that my mom hung out with when they went to Disneyland all the time in their cute little dresses, because you dressed up to go to the theme park. But I just thought when you said that just reminded me, and I hadn't thought about that in so long. But that's not on Disney Plus either. So what the heck, Disney Plus?
Well, no, I do not know.
I mean, do we even need a list?
If it's like a licensing thing, or if it also could be, we don't have a really good copy of that. That would be like,
that's true.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't think they were like super worried about keeping those films in good condition. And
not looking towards the future of being able to watch whatever you want on your phone. That's this
some
big.
Of these movies were in the 70s, so like putting them out on VHS would have been like 5 or 6 years later. So like
longer than that.
No, think about it.
80s is when VHS.
Like mid 80s, like 83-ish, let's say 83, 84. We got our first VCR in 84, and we were pretty late.
I think we got it in 1980. When did MTV come on? 1980 or 81?
81, I want to say.
I just remember because I videotaped the start of MTV.
But like One of Our Dinosaurs Missing came out in 75.
Oh, yeah.
Or, know, so that's 5 years, 6 years later. Or Follow Me Boys came out in 66. Another interesting piece is it says it was the last live action non-musical that Walt Disney produced before he died. Like it came out like 2 weeks after he died or something like that.
Oh, interesting.
But there's a million different, everybody said, this is the last movie Walt produced. I'm like, come on. This can't be
What's the first question when you get to heaven? I need to ask Walt Disney what the last movie he produced was.
Kurt Russell, what was that about?
Oh,
I was going to put him in a movie. It's not that big a deal.
What the heck? Exactly.
But we should probably get to our actual list. So, what is your first movie?
I'm gonna say I only have a bunch of them now. I'm like looking at them, going, do I want to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1? I'm gonna say everybody needs to see, now that I've seen it. The Boy Who Talks to Badgers.
I am unfamiliar. I know the title. I'm unfamiliar with anything about this movie.
It was definitely it was a TV movie, so it was never out in the theaters. And it was on one of Walt Disney's World of Color. I started watching it because I had never seen it, and I was like, wow, this is going to be painful. My friend had warned me that it was going to be painful.
Mm-hmm.
But the more I watched it, I'm like, this dad has psychological issues. This boy has ADHD 100%. Older brother's pretty cool, but why is he that cool towards his brother? And mom is just a little off. And then there's, the token bad guy. But wow, there was like a TV movie and there was like guns and knives. And I'm like, why didn't you just shoot him? You had the gun. But he didn't shoot him. He waited to get hit. And there was a thing, and the boy was gone for a whole week, and there was no cell phones or anything, but the badger saved him.
I
was
mean,
very
you've
sweet.
described none of the plot, but I want to see this movie.
I described all of the plot. The boy got lost. The badger saved him. He came home. Oh,
Okay.
spoiler. He came home. Oh, I will
Oh.
say this, though. I will say this. It's not an all the way happy ending. And I
Interesting.
got to talk about this. I'm sorry, because I just got to talk about this one thing.
I think it's safe to do spoilers for movies that came out like over 40
before we
years
were born. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Because so obviously he becomes best friends with this badger, who is really awesome. The badger gets shot. Oh no, and you think the badger's dead. And then it's so sad because he's carrying the badger and he's gonna go bury him, and all of a sudden the badger starts like breathing a little bit, and you're like, oh, the badger's alive. Oh, Dad, the badger's alive. He comes back. They put the badger down. Dad feels the badger. He goes, Dad, is she alive? And he's like, just barely, son. Is she gonna make it? No, I don't think so.
That's what a fake out.
Just let me bury her.
Here's the hope. Nah.
And then I was like, and then so they did that whole. I did not like that, and I was not a fan. I mean, just let the boy go bury her, like Old Yeller.
That's what I was thinking. Is this the badger that came after Old Yeller? Like it's like the shared Disney universe of Old Yeller and the boy who talked to badger.
I just did the hero's journey for 6 weeks with my students, and claiming the badger is, yes, barely alive, only to have it die was not one of the endings in hero's journey.
I love the hero's journey. Don't even get me started on that. That's like my 54 years of my life is the hero's journey.
Like, you had the resurrection. That's it. There's no return with the elixir.
Right.
There's
it's
just
like hope. Nah. Reality. Okay. I got to watch that movie. Okay. My first one is a cheat. And I think you'll understand why it's a cheat, but it is a cheat. And I'm going to call this the Dexter Riley trilogy, because it is the collective teenage works of Kurt Russell in the movies The Computer Wars, Tennis Shoes, Now You See Him, Now You Don't, and The Strongest Man in the World.
Yes.
For those who are unfamiliar. And if you grew up in the 70s and you're not familiar, what even were you doing? Is Kurt Russell as a student at Medfield College named Dexter Riley. Medfield College being the Disney studios. When you watch them, you're like, oh yeah, no, that's all just around the studio. And I was sitting there watching through clips of this, and I was like, this is like a superhero trilogy. Like, he continually gets superpowers in every movie and then beats the bad guy with his superpowers and then loses his superpowers at the end of the movie, only to get superpowers again in the next movie. So in The Computer Wore Tennis Shoes, he has an accident with a computer and becomes super smart. And Now You See Him, Now You Don't, he gains the power of invisibility. And in The Strongest Man in the World, he gains the power of super strength.
You don't say.
Yes, I know, shocking, I know. But they're just so charming. And they're just so, it's what it is on the label. It's goofy kids doing goofy stuff in the world's most wholesome college during the 60s and the 70s. Nobody's smoking anything.
Or protesting anything.
And they're just like neat kids hanging out. And their whole goal, I don't know what's going on with the finances of this college, because every movie, the college is about to shut down and they need to save it from like corrupt real estate developers.
You're a vice chancellor or
Years
assistant
later,
vice
they
chancellor.
revisit this with Breakin' and the various breakdancing movies and having to save the community center. It is just charming. And I can't speak to the high quality of the special effects, but they're just fun. They're just fun movies.
Those are fun movies. I will give you that for sure. All right. Next on my list is The Story of Perry. I forgot that. Do you know this? I forgot Disney did. I mean, of course, I know Disney did movies like this, but I forgot because they seem like movies you would have watched in school. But The Story of Perry is about a squirrel, and it's a live action squirrel, and literally all they did was film a squirrel and a squirrel's habitat doing squirrel type things, and then a narrator is narrating what the squirrel is doing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of funny. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's just like, oh, the squirrel sees a flying squirrel. He wants to try that. Nope, he can't do that. Whoops. Oh, he's gonna try it. And then he shows the squirrel jumping off a tree, just like falling. And it's narrating the squirrel's life.
Mm-hmm.
I totally forgot about movies like that.
Yeah, I think Disney kind of perfected that, where it's just like, hey, we got a bunch of this B-roll of this squirrel. Can we make a whole movie out of it?
That is literally what it was. That is literally, I think, what it was. So, yeah, that one's on my list.
Good
that
pick.
was funny. Good times.
Okay, my next one. Some of mine are going to be so obvious, but come on. The Apple Dumpling Gang.
Yeah, I knew you were picking that.
You know, come on. Tim Conway, Don Knotts. Just funny. Even now, like, again, in preparation for this, I just watched a bunch of clips. I didn't watch the whole movie. I watched a bunch of clips. And I was just cracking up. Like, Tim Conway and Don Knotts are a comedy duo that people really underestimate. And it's like, just, they only got together for, like, Disney movies in the 70s.
Wait. Yeah, they did, right?
Yeah,
you're right. Like, I was thinking Don Knotts was on Carol Burnett.
Yeah.
But he wasn't.
Oh.
Yeah.
No. And think about it. This is post Andy Griffith's show, pre-Three's Company, Don Knotts.
Yeah.
Right? This was post The Incredible Mr. Limpet, Don Knotts, which was not a Disney movie.
Nope, not a Disney film. Nope. I will tell you that when I was looking at the list of things, I realized as I was watching these movies that I cannot watch a lot of these with Thor in the room. Thor is one of those dogs who barks his full head off anytime he sees another animal on the screen, whether it's animated or live. I don't know how he knows.
Yeah.
But he knows. So I'm thinking about all the kind of comedy movies about that time, like The Ugly Dachshunds and The $1 Million Ducks and That Darn Cat. That darn cat. But I am going to put, I don't know if this is a cheat or not because it came out after I was born. It's the 70s, but I love The Cat from Outer Space.
Oh, yeah.
I think every kid should see The Cat from Outer Space.
If I hadn't remembered that, I would, that would be on my list.
I remember watching The Cat from Outer Space in the theater. I remember watching it on VHS. I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
It's funny. You got cats in space.
Be clear. There's nothing on my list that's going to win any Oscars. Okay,
I don't know.
These
Cat from Outer Space should have.
Right? This is not going up against Oppenheimer. Right? These are just goofy movies that Disney made. Right? Oh my God, The Cat from Outer Space, I love. And I got to tell you, they did a remake of That Darn Cat in the 90s that I also loved.
I didn't see it.
I didn't see it. Pretty good. And I generally hate Disney remakes, but it was actually pretty good.
Well, I will tell you, that darn dog of mine keeps barking, so I'm sorry every time you heard him bark because something happened.
My dog does the same thing with animals. But you know what's weird? My dog barks at bad guys on TV. I don't know how he knows it. But if it's a bad guy, he barks. And specifically, and I think this is natural, because his name is Gotham, he really loses it on Batman villains.
That's hilarious.
I was watching something with the Riddler on it, and he was just not happy. I was like, well, yeah, I get it.
Okay.
Your name's Gotham. Okay.
That's hilarious.
So my next one, I was torn on this because I was like, is this one not really thought of? I think people talk about it a lot, but I think people talk about the remake more than the original. And it's The Parent Trap.
Yeah, I love it.
Like the Haley Mills Parent Trap. I love this movie. It is a high quality movie. Like it is like, I'm a Disney fan, but even if this wasn't a Disney movie, this would be a movie I would like rewatch. Like it's just a really good movie. And the other thing about it is I think it really works as a kid's movie, like the first half when they're at camp. But then sort of the back half with the parents is kind of this weirdly touching romantic comedy about two people who just couldn't get out of their way to, kind of fall in love with each other. It's just a really good movie.
I love the original.
I like The Parent Trap.
I love the original. I also like the remake.
Yeah.
And there's another one that's the same and it's on my list. Jodie Foster in Freaky Friday. I love the original, but also love Jamie Lee Curtis as the mom in the remake. So I Freaky Friday is on my list, and that goes along with just what you said about the Parent Trap. Like everything. I love it. Jodie Foster was almost like the Kurt Russell of Disney, which is funny. And neither one of them was ever like a Mouseketeer or anything like that, right? So it's not like they
went through the Disney machine in that way. But I think that, I mean, it's such a weird thing because most of my picks are coming from the period after Walt died.
Yeah.
But like the animation studios weren't great because that's my least favorite animated movies, period. But the live action movies I really liked during this period. I mean, and they're not, again, they're not like high quality, but they're just goofy fun. And I think because I was a kid during this period, and I most of these I saw, like, not most, but like, let me see, like the Apple Dumpling Gang I saw in the theater. My next pick I saw in the theater because I'm gonna go to it because you just mentioned Jodie Foster. Candle Shoe we saw in the theater.
That would have been on mine too.
It's just a really cool Jodie Foster picture, where she was, pretending to be the heir to this fortune, and then it turned out maybe she really was the heir, and and then there was, goofy, scams at the end. But it was when I first developed my crush on Jodie Foster, which would last for a while until I realized, oh, yeah, no,
you can still have a crush on her.
No, I still have a crush on Jodie Foster. It was awesome. I just doubt it. It's one of the things I say. It's like, yes, because of the fact that she's not into men. That's the reason.
That's the reason.
That's why. Otherwise, I'd have a shot.
Yeah.
But completely. No, the Candle Shoe was just this. And other than you, nobody knows Candle Shoe.
What are you talking about?
I have mentioned Candle Shoe to millions of people.
Even our own age?
Yeah.
Okay, I know a lot of people that know Candle Shoe.
You had to see it in the theater, because Candle Shoe wasn't on TV a lot, I think. And I don't
wasn't on TV, but it was a VHS.
Was it a VHS?
Yeah,
okay.
It was a VHS.
I don't remember watching it on VHS. I remember watching it in the theater, and I watched it. I think I watched the first half hour right when Disney Plus first popped out. But I haven't watched it like in full. But no, when I was a kid, and I think I was like 8 or 9. Totally thought Jodie Foster was the bee's knees or whatever.
How many things did you put on your list?
I got like 4 or 5, maybe.
Okay, I want to match you. That's why.
Okay.
Because there's some. This one's not on my list of one I love, but I think it's a classic, and I think probably you should watch it if you're a Disney fan. But I just remember my mom having us watch this one, and it was a little too sticky sweet for me, and that was Pollyanna. Which is why Pollyanna gets. I mean, kids, even though people don't even know it's a movie, they kind of know what you're saying when you say the word Pollyanna, right? Like, stop being such a Pollyanna.
Yeah. I mean, for me, that was like a feature instead of a bug. Like, that was the point. And if you remember, Pollyanna has a super dark ending. Like, the ending of that movie is so dark.
You know what? I totally don't remember. We could do spoilers. What was it? I really don't remember.
She has an accident and is paralyzed.
Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That part. Yeah.
And that's sort of the turnaround, because for folks who don't know, like, I say it's a feature of the bug because that's kind of what the movie's about. Like, there's this sort of cynical town, and then Pollyanna shows up, and she has the power of optimism, and the power of optimism really changes people's lives for the better. And then at the end of the movie, she has an accident and is paralyzed, and the whole town that started out cynical is super positive and hopeful for her future, as her uncle / adoptive father, I can't remember, carries her out of the house to seek treatment. And that's the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Pollyanna is paralyzed. And we have no idea if it's going to get better. And considering it was like the late 1900s, I doubt she got better.
It's like the damn badger.
Right? But it's you're right. The whole point is she's so sweet. She's so like nice and optimistic that, like, it's such a weird movie because it's like known for being really sort of sickeningly sweet, and it is. but it just has this dark ending.
She's still alive. Although
Yeah.
she probably shouldn't meet the dad on the Badger, because then you'd go, will she make it? No. I don't think so.
No. Also,
So-
your dog's been acting kind of weird. Grab your gun and go out.
Oh my god, that is horrible. That is horrible.
I have one more. Do you have one more?
I have a lot more, but I think you should go.
I want to hear your a lot more. Because we've talked about like the in the time we've talked about the list I made, and then we just talked about things.
Go forward.
My last official one is the Shaggy Dog.
Yeah, well, that was on my thing too.
I love the Shaggy Dog. It's genuinely a funny movie.
Yeah.
And it's one of those, I don't know about your family, but my family, we see a movie together and then we would just like have what I guess now we call memes, but just like pick up on a family thing.
Yeah.
And so in my family, to this day, as grown middle-aged adults, we'll just walk in a room going, in canis corpore, transmute, transmute, and away we go.
Oh my god, that is so funny. And don't forget the Shaggy DA, the sequel.
Which I was annoyed because they changed the lead. I was like, this isn't the same guy.
I know.
Dean Jones is not the same guy.
I know. I think for the longest time when I was young, I didn't realize that it was a sequel because they were different guys. I mean, when I was little.
Right.
Although I could always tell on Bewitched that they were both there, and so I don't know. I don't know why one was okay.
I love Bewitched. And maybe this is like my early feminism. I just remember watching Bewitched as a small child being like, he just seems mean. Let her be who she's going to be. Like, what's the deal with this dude?
A lot.
Like, I remember I did not like Darren.
Yeah, that wouldn't bode well today.
I just was, even as a little kid, I was like, she's a witch. What's your deal, buddy? Like,
yeah.
Like,
yeah.
He just seemed
that
like
actually,
so
there's
mean
some trauma
to me.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't be who you are. I married you, don't be who you are.
And she consistently was like, yeah, I don't care. And I liked her mom. I was like, yeah.
And Dora was the best.
Yeah.
All her relatives, actually.
Yeah. Uncle Arthur. Dr. Bombay. None of this is Disney, but
Dr. Bombay, I need to see come right away. Oh my gosh, we need a Bewitched podcast. That's all there is.
Yeah.
Okay.
What else is on your list?
Well, I have a few. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna pick this one as my last official. But I did love Escape to Witch Mountain, even though that
came so close to making my list. Saw it in the theaters too.
First one, so saw it in the theaters. First one was 75, and then the sequels after that. But I think that every Disney fan needs to see Escape from Witch Mountain if they haven't already. But one of the things, not really a list thing, it's something that I had forgotten. I had forgotten actually that The Incredible Journey was a movie in 1963, and I'm sure I've seen it, but it's not in my memory. Because the only memory I have is the Homeward Bound one with Michael J. Fox and Sally Fields and Richard Mulligan. So I totally don't remember the 1963 version. But that would have been under Walt.
1963 version. I don't think I ever saw the remake. I think I've only seen the 1963.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, there's the Homeward Bound Incredible Journey remake, and then there's another Incredible Journey. There's like 3.
Yeah.
But different voices in all of them have different voices. So I don't know.
Yeah. You know what's strange is like we talked before that I don't think I saw a lot of that Disney animated movies in the 70s. But as we talk about this, we did see a fair amount of the live action ones. That's weird.
Yeah.
Like I didn't realize until this conversation because I'm like, I saw Pinocchio on the day I was supposed to see Superman the movie, and that traumatized me because even though I loved Pinocchio, come on.
Yeah.
Mom. Superman. And my mom's reason was I'm not standing in that long line. But other than that, I don't remember seeing any Disney animated movies when I was a kid. But I'm like, oh no, we saw Candle Shoe, we saw Escape from Witch Mountain, we saw we saw a bunch of these live action ones in the theater. It's weird.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. This is because this is what we saw. Now parents take their little ones to not a lot of live action, a lot of animation, but there's not a lot of live action little kid movies now like there were in the 70s.
Yeah.
So maybe that's
I think
why.
you can make money off of a live action kid movie in the 70s that maybe you can't now, or maybe all those go straight to Netflix or
yeah, I
Disney
bet
Plus
that's
or whatever.
it.
Or you know what it is? They go straight to like the Disney Channel. Because I notice, because I didn't grow up with the Disney Channel, it's not like a huge part of my life, but like your kids and other folks who are younger, like the Disney Channel was this huge thing that I'm completely,
No, it's true. It's true. High School Musical, Hannah Montana,
right.
All of that stuff was yeah, you're right. It's just that's what happened once you had cable. I mean, all of these movies we watched, there was no cable.
No,
there was no VHS when these were
maybe
out.
in a couple years they would go on like the Disney Sunday Night Movie or something like that. But.
Yeah, and we watched that a lot. So that's where the Badger Boy, Boy Who Talked to Badgers, that's where that.
Yeah.
You must watch this film.
This movie, the way you've described it, sounds insane.
Badger saves the boy. He brings him raw fish.
And is it is the badger radioactive and he bites the boy and the boy gets badger power?
No,
that happen?
Just a very sweet badger. Of course, the badger was a female badger, so that caring, nurturing thing. If it was a male badger, probably would have ripped his face off.
Of the two of us,
I'd say in the animal world. not in the evolved human world, though we're probably not that much more evolved than a badger. But okay, so there are movies though that I had never even heard of that I want to see, and one of them you mentioned, the Greyfriars Bobby, I've never seen, and I really, really want to watch The Adventures of Bullwhip Griffin.
Okay, that is a movie, that and Mr. Boogedy. After I went away to college, there was this, and I'm very jealous. There's this period where this whole thing continued in my family, but I just wasn't there. So I was talking to my little brother about this, Mr. Boogedy, The Adventures of Bullwhip Griffin, like all of these movies that they love, and they have memes where they talk to each other, and I'm like, but I wasn't living at home now.
No, I really want it. Roddy McDowell is in that.
Yeah, and they love it. They're like, and I've seen it. But it's the family meme that I'm not a part of, and I'm annoyed.
I don't know if I need to see Castaway Cowboy with James Garner. I might.
I mean, James Garner's always, good.
There were like, when I was looking up how to find One Little Indian, there were like all these quotes from him saying how much he didn't like that movie. So I think Jodie Foster was in that one too.
Jodie Foster made a lot of Disney money. Jodie Foster
was in that one. I mean, so why do you think it's not on Disney Plus? I'm thinking maybe the Indian reference. Maybe it's because a white boy lived with Indians.
To your point, Disney has figured out. I really like their statement in the sense of like, hey, look, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And I've always thought that the way to release Song of the South would be to have Disney commission a whole movie about a documentary about racist depictions
wouldn't that be
movies.
Great?
Particularly in Disney movies, and then as an extra you have Song of the South, but the only way to access that extra is you have to have watched that documentary first.
That would be awesome,
so that you have context for what you're about to see, because I've seen it. You've seen it, Song of the South,
in the theaters.
Yeah, no, I have a copy of it around somewhere.
I gave you a copy of it.
Oh, that's right.
I mailed it to you. I gifted it to you.
You didn't watch it before you sent it?
I got one too. I didn't get you just one and not me.
Oh, well, I thought I was special. But you know what I mean? Like, I really think that the context to these is important. I don't like the idea that you cannot see the stuff. I like the idea that it's like, if you're going to watch it, you're going to need some education.
And you know what? It would be after this whole thing with Splash Mountain closing and all the back and forth between people, most of them who haven't seen Song of the South or don't remember it enough. They just remember it as this happy black guy telling stories to these little white kids, right? What could be wrong with that? I do wish it was on now so that you can have a moment.
Well, and that you can, I think part of it is when you take it out of its context, right? Because you take Brer Rabbit and Brer Bear and Brer Fox out of the context, you slowly, it's harder to see them as caricatures. And there's an argument that can be made then that's like, great, then they're not. but to understand it within the context and understand why people are pissed, right? Like why it's, we had a whole episode about that. There's one of our best episodes. So if you haven't listened to it, listeners, not you, I assume you've listened to it. I recommend it. But I think context is so important. And I think even if you don't do it with Song of the South, a documentary about racist depictions in Disney movies,
it would be interesting.
Produced by Disney, where they say, look, this is what we've done historically.
Yeah, Disney needs to get on that. Maybe you should talk to them.
Look, I've got calls in and they don't seem to respond.
Maybe I'll talk to Emma.
Got pictures of myself in Walt's office, so what's the problem?
I don't know. I don't have those pictures of me in his office.
You visited his office, didn't you?
The outside of it. I didn't get the inside of anything.
I thought when you went with Emma, you guys didn't.
She couldn't get me in all that stuff. We just went around the studios and saw all the other stuff that we could see.
I highly recommend it if it's so choice. I know if you have the means.
And I do have the means, actually. So I really should get on that.
Like, that was one of my favorite Disney trips I've ever taken, is the trip to the studios with the Walt's office tour.
I need to talk to my daughter again. See what we can do.
I mean, that's just generally true.
Well, you do talk to her every day.
Okay.
Anyway, okay, our community Disney dueling Disney. I don't know. I'm sick. What am I saying? Community duelists. What did we miss? We had to have missed something. I know. So tell us. If you're watching us on YouTube, let us know right here in the comments below. And if you're listening on the podcast, just get on social media and either become a duelist yourself, or you can find us on Facebook or Instagram at Dueling Disney.
Are we supposed to say like and subscribe? Every YouTube video I know says that.
Like and subscribe.
And do we have a Patreon? I didn't think we had a Patreon, but
no, we don't have a Patreon. We're not making money off this.
We're not.
No, because it would be horrible to just see Patreon zero. Whatever way. I don't need to see that in my life.
All right. Well, please remain seated with your seatbelts fastened. Wait for the podcast to come to a complete stop before disembarking. Permanece sentados, por favor.